Hi, I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. Well, not having any fun jobs to do out in the workshop tonight, I was watching a video, and it was Tractorman 44 starting his John Deere 210, which had been sitting for a long time. He got it running. Good job. Way to go. But while he was doing that, he had a problem. One of the springs on the governor broke, so he MIG welded it together. He said that like it was something not a good idea. And that got me to thinking of something that I did of a similar nature. Back when I was 16, I traded a guy a go kart for a Harley 45. And I was thinking I was going to use the engine off the Harley 45 on a go kart, make like a sprint car. But to do that, I needed to get the engine running first. So I and the neighbors put it together. My brother helped, and my dad helped, and everybody got together, and we put the thing together and got it running. Then I decided, well, it's running. Might as well just drive it. So I put it together, and everything was going to work except there was no linkage for the rear brake. There was the rear linkage, but not the front linkage. It had two. There was a bell crank in the middle, and it had a rod that connected the pedal to the bell crank. Well, not having one handy, I took a piece of rod that had a thread on it, and I welded it to another rod that was long enough and had a hook on the end, and made a linkage, so I could adjust it with the bell to the bell crank and get the pedal in the right position. I was a pretty good welder, I thought, and I welded it together. So, a couple years later, after finally getting a license for the thing, which I can't go into right now because I don't think the statute of limitations is expired yet. I don't know if there is one on doing one of those things. Anyways, I was driving it, going down US 12, headed east, and I was headed out by the Alamo Drive-In. Back in 1969, the Alamo Drive-In was open and running. I think this was 1970. Yeah, 1970 when I had the problem. Headed by the Alamo Drive-In, used to be called the Starlight. But I was driving by the Alamo Drive-In, and I looked up ahead, and the guy was going to turn left in the Alamo. No big deal. I stepped on the rear brake, and pedal went clear to the bottom, and I looked off to the right, and here was the brake linkage chasing me down the road. It had snapped right in two. That threaded rod had snapped off the end of the other rod. That rod fell off and was running down the road. So that meant I had no brakes because this was a chopper, right? I made it into a chopper. It had front brakes, but they weren't really anything you wanted to trust. So I thought, thinking quickly, being the certified, well, we won't say. Anyways, I thought, okay, there's a car off to the right. I can't go into the right lane. I can't pass because there's cars coming. But maybe I can go around him. There's going to be an opening in the traffic, and I think I can just swing around him if I'm going fast enough. Now, this is all happening in a very, very rapid progression. And so I twisted the throttle wide open on the bike and took off at a pretty good clip. Now, the speed limit out there was only 35, and I was doing a good 50 when he saw the opening, swung the car left, and began to make his turn just as I slammed into his left front wheel. Totally my fault. My fault all the way around. The guy had nothing to do with it. It was just out of the blue. He had 600 pounds of motorcycle slam into the side of his 1957 Chevy car. And it was a really nice, well-painted yellow car with a star aluminum wheel on it. You know, the 5-spoke aluminum wheel. Very, very cool car. And the epitome of what every kid wanted at that time. Snapped that wheel right in two. Busted all the spokes. I slid into the parking lot, and the bike ended up landing on my foot. My buddy was on the back, and I'm laying there with his bike pinning my foot down, and I can't get up. I'm not really feeling anything. I'm not hurt. Nothing's broken. Nothing's happened to me. Now, my buddy got thrown off the bike, and he's over about 15, 20 feet away from me. And I said, somebody pick this bike off my foot. Words to that effect. He hobbled over, one leg hopping, reached down, picked up the back of the bike, got it off my foot. I stood up. I'm walking around with the helmet in my hand, and the ambulance comes, picks up my buddy, puts him on the gurney, and drives off with him. Lord help us. Somehow or another, I managed to get somebody out there to pick up the bike and take it home, fix the Kickstarter shaft on the transmission, and got it running, and drove that bike for another 6 years. Never weld a linkage together like that. It's a dumb move on my part. Don't do it. Now, as far as Tractor Man's spring, that's his choice. He gets to do things like that. But I'm not going to weld together anything that I have to worry about. Thanks for listening. This is Old Sneelock. Talk to you later.